folks. Today I'm looking to trim up some of these grapevines here. You want to get them in the winter or the spring. You see, what happens is that as the days warm, before the leaves come out, the sap starts to run. And so you generally want to try to prune these things before the sap runs too much, or else it weakens the plant and the root structure. Now, why do you trim them? Why do you prune them? Well, grapes, generally they grow, they put out foliage, they put out these vines, and they'll grow for a year, and then it becomes woody, and it doesn't actually produce fruit anymore. So by clipping this, what they call dead wood or older wood, second year growth, you promote more lateral, new shoots, new leaf growths, which will then bear grapes. So what happens is that, like, wherever you have clusters of leaves, you'll have a node there, and it'll grow a cluster of grapes that'll come later on. So what this does essentially by pruning is you promote more growth for the plants. Now, how do you prune? Well, depends on how hard you want to cut them back. But generally speaking, you find you can kind of train them, right? It's almost like a bonsai or something where you can train it to grow in a certain direction or grow more one way or another. What you want to do is kind of select a strong main stem, and then from there you clip off last year's growth, but you might just leave one or two branches that can then flower and leaf more. So this thing, I'm going to cut it back quite a bit, and we'll be able to see it later on. By the summer, it'll be a massive bush, but hopefully it'll bear some more grapes. Let's take a closer look, though, at the pruning process. What a mess here, right? Look at this. Wild growth. Now, I didn't really maintain this as much as I should have in the fall, so let's kind of go through what's what here. So this is a Concord grape. They grow really well. They're very robust growers. There's a few. This is actually a raspberry cane. Get the terminology right. This is a cane. This is a vine. The cane grew up through the grapes here. So I'm just going to tuck it back and figure out what to do with it later. You can root them, you can do more, you can propagate them, but let's deal with that in another video. So let's talk more about these grapes here. So some of this here, let's see if I can bring this down for you a little bit and show you what I'm working with here. So some of this down here, like right here, you see how this just bends and breaks off? This is just dead wood. If you look at it, just brown, crisp, that's dead wood. You don't need that at all. That has no purpose at this point. It's just dead. In fact, insects can live in it, so we're going to clip that off. You can just crumble, break it with your hands. Now, we'll keep going through here. So right here, we have what would be considered second and third year growth. These are this is the main trunks for the plants. Now, at the time when I planted these, I didn't really know what I was doing. So I ended up with kind of a wild trunk, as you can see. It's just a little bit haywired. You see how there's all sorts of, it's kind of spider-legged. Wouldn't do it this way again, but I like the plant enough I don't want to start over. So we'll keep going with it here. But let me show you what we're going to trim back here. Alright, so this is my second or third year growth here. These are just kind of the main stems. These are almost the trunk of the plant. But you can see how there's this offshoot here. This is what would be considered a second year growth. You see how you've got the scaly bark? This is a couple years old here, several years old really. But this is from last year. This was clipped last year, and this is a new sprout. I think I'm going to cut it back. Do you see how there's these little teeny tiny buds? They're hard to make out, but there's little teeny tiny buds. I'm going to cut it to the first bud right after that point, about an inch beyond that. if you look at it, you can see how it's green. This is live wood. It's last year's growth, but we're going to clip it anyway because we need to make room for some new growth, and this is kind of weighing the plant down a little bit. So what do you cut and how much? The good news is you can really clip these back pretty good. I'm going to clip this one again right here. See, some of these vines are several feet long. Some are, they're almost like a whip. They're 6, 7, 8 feet long. They go and go and go. The plant just wants to produce enough fruit to reproduce. That's sort of its wiring. So when we clip it, we kind of send a message to the plant that's like, uh-oh, you need to grow more fruit. What's going on here? You're missing some of these vines. Put out more. It's the new vines that put out fruit, so we want to encourage the plant to put out some new vines. So we'll just prune down through here. Now, what should I clip and how much of it? Well, I'm going to clip this back pretty hard. I'm going to leave the main stem, and I'm going to leave a couple offshoots from the main stem. But other than that, I'm going to clip it back. You want to get rid of, if there's any growth that you don't really like the direction it's going, just get rid of it. Just clip it all the way down to the base. If you're thinking like, hey, this is too much here, I don't like the direction it is, or this is a weak piece of wood, you can just clip it right down to the base. Ideally, you do this when it's still below freezing. The reason being is that the plant's in a dormant state. It's not, it's spring here, but it's not running too bad, and they haven't put out the leaves yet. Once the leaves come out, you want to be a little bit more judicious about trimming. You can see, if you look very closely, you can see the little buds here sprouting and growing. So I'm going to leave a couple of these alone. I'm just going to leave the cut to about here, and it should promote more growth. I'm going to cut off some of these old growths. You see how, like, this one right here is sort of old. It's not growing in a proper direction. So I just clip it off right at the base. Just make a nice snip. This is dead wood anyway. But I'm just going to keep going through and clipping off last year's growth. Some I'll clip to the base. Most I'll clip 2 to 3 buds from the base, so they'll still grow more. Most of the directions I like. I'll keep this one here, snip it there. These down here, I don't like that they're growing along the ground. That's another thing. You don't necessarily want these to grow on the ground. You know, some canes, some vines will grow upward, some will grow laterally, some will grow down. The ones that grow down you want to get rid of. They tend to encourage bugs, so I try to get rid of those if you can. This is a real long one here. Keeps going, and going, and going, and going, and going. But yeah, so I'm just working my way down right now.